Alright, YouTube, if you thought the Clintons had any intent whatsoever to legalize it or tamp down on the drug war, you can kiss that goodbye. Chelsea Clinton, speaking on behalf of her mother, of course, who's running for president right now, I think we all know, said that marijuana can kill people, which is completely and demonstrably wrong according to all human evidence. But apparently, this makes sense to the Clintonian neoliberals now. Since when has the Democratic Party actually suggested ending the drug war? The answer is they haven't. They've suggested, yeah, okay, maybe let the states legalize marijuana, maybe have it medically legal on a federal level, but that's really all they've wanted to do. You look at what the DEA is doing with Kratom there. Does it seem like they're trying to scale down the drug war to you? No, they're trying to expand it. I don't think they'll be successful. I think the amount of public backlash to any additional attempt to regulate clearly is quite high as opposed to in the past when most people thought that prohibition was a good idea. It's like alcohol prohibition. At first, it was generally more popular. It fell out of favor when people realized it didn't work. The drug war doesn't work. Only government propaganda has kept it going. That and the prison complex, corporate for-profit prison system, which Clinton gets a lot of money from. She also gets a lot of money from pharmaceutical companies. They don't want to see the drug war ended. She gets a lot of money from foreign states that really want to keep the situation going where the U.S. has it illegal, so it gets imported, and foreign states can make an enormous profit. You look at the Middle East with opium. You look at some of the Hispanic nations, some of the Latin American states with cocaine or something like that. And then it gets turned into crack here by gangs, and they give kickbacks to a bunch of Democrats in the inner city. It's what happens. It's machine politics. It's grubby. It's very dishonest, ruins a lot of lives, causes a lot of addiction. But that's the way that it goes, I suppose. You got to keep people safe by making sure that addicts get thrown in jail. So the first thing they do when they get out is, go and get their fix. And now they've learned all sorts of other criminal skills. Again, as I've said many times, from Manny the murderer, who happened to be sharing their cell, because everybody knows that simple possession of marijuana is a crime worthy of being, getting Hep C in prison with Manny the murderer, or one of these others. Carl the Con, anybody, doesn't really matter. But Chelsea Clinton is provably wrong. No, marijuana is not killing people in Colorado. She's completely wrong. She tried to walk it back, didn't really succeed. But this is the sort of policy we will continue under as long as we have this sort of stagnant, weird, so-called mainstream view of drugs. It will continue because it's in their best interest, in a monetary sense, to continue the drug war. Our politicians are bought and sold by the Saudis and other states that happen to be Saudi clienteles, like Afghanistan with all of their opium. They're bought and sold by the prison complex. They're bought and sold by all sorts of people, to the point at which it's actually very funny. The Republican candidate appears to be more progressive on drugs right now than the Democrat. The Democratic candidate's own daughter just ranted about marijuana killing people, whereas Trump has said he believes in medical marijuana from first-hand experience watching people whose symptoms have been cured by it, and would really let the states decide on legalization. That's actually beyond Obama or Clinton when it comes to progress in the drug war. Now, I take it a step further. I think that all drugs should be decriminalized for simple possession. They should all be medically legal. I wouldn't bother legalizing them. I'd just make it not be an offense for simple possession, and let, I suppose, people manufacture small amounts of their own, because that way the government isn't taxing. And I think if you get government weed or something, then they'll try to make sure people get addicted to drugs. They'll make them addictive if they aren't already, so that they can, again, pump the prison complex full of addicts, or something like that. That's what the government does. It makes money. No, they don't care if they would have literal slavery at that point. They'd love it. So it'd be a work around the 13th Amendment. Trust me, they wish that they could find new ways to enslave people. What do you think prison labor is at this point? It's a form of slavery. Hate to admit it, but the far left is actually right when they say that. But no, Chelsea Clinton doesn't apparently understand this. Now, if Hillary came out and said, yeah, marijuana kills, it's evil, reefer madness every day, I could excuse that by saying, yeah, she's old. She's geriatric. She's almost 70. Naturally, she comes from a generation that was pumped full of propaganda about how marijuana was a gateway drug to crack. But Chelsea Clinton's not. Chelsea Clinton's middle age. She's a Gen Xer. She has absolutely no excuse whatsoever to actually believe her mother's propaganda. And then the Clintons were, at the forefront along with Reagan and many of these other people in pushing this old tired lie. It's like Bubba Bill when they said, "Oh, did you smoke pot?" And of course everybody knew he had been smoking pot. He said, "Oh yeah, I tried that stuff, but I didn't inhale. No, just trust me, I never actually got high." Inhaling being the point. No, even Obama was honest enough to point this out. Yeah, I smoked weed, and he also did cocaine and all sorts of other things, because that's what these people do. The trust fund babies from the political elite, they all do drugs. Every single one of them has at least tried these substances. Every single one of them. Trump's probably tried them. I don't think he's being honest when he says, "Oh, I've never had a drink in my life. I've never used..." Now, I think you have tried beer a couple times. I'm sure that you tried wine maybe once. You probably smoked a doobie at some point. You may not be forthcoming on that, but yeah, I think that you did. The squeaky clean image thing doesn't work with me. Now, I don't care. I don't care if he's like complete straight edge or I don't care if he's a coke addict as long as his policies make sense. But for somebody who's fairly young, like Chelsea Clinton, compared to maybe her parents, Bill at this point looks like a zombie. He looks like he wandered off the set of Walking Dead. Hillary Clinton looks the same, only with pancake makeup. Chelsea Clinton, though, does not have a legitimate excuse for why she would believe that marijuana has a substantial capability to poison the user, because it clearly doesn't. Otherwise, we'd be seeing people drop like flies in Colorado, Washington State, Alaska, Washington, D.C., oddly enough. It's actually very funny, because the same politicians who support the drug war can now legally get their weed in D.C. And judging by their behavior, I'm sure that more than a few of them probably do toke fairly regularly. Half of them are probably alcoholics, too, statistically speaking. At least half of them drink fairly regularly. Probably a quarter of them are outright drunks, which might explain what happens in D.C. on a regular basis. It's better than in the old days, though. The Founding Fathers were all drunks. Every single one of them drank constantly because there was little else to do. They didn't have the internet back then. Andrew Jackson was fairly legendary for starting brawls in bars after getting completely sauced, and it took quite a few mugs of ale to get him to that point, considering how large he was. I don't care if these people are stoned. I do wish that they were more forthcoming about the fact that they are actually aware of the fact that many of these substances should be legal. They should be more forthcoming about it. I realize for political expediency, even in some of the bluish states, that many of them don't want to talk about it. But I think there's probably some coke in the Senate right now. If you checked the bathrooms, I'm sure you'd find a few bags. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you'd find more than a few whiskey bottles stored in the cabinets and drawers throughout the House chambers. Yeah, of course you would. These people need to stop acting holier than thou, to the point at which they pretend that they're all a bunch of straight edgers, because they're not. Quite clearly, they're not. I no longer use marijuana. I haven't used it in half a decade, and I don't have any plans to use it again. It didn't fry my mind. I used a lot of stuff that's more powerful than marijuana. Never fried me. I sit here. I can speak coherently for 20, 30 minutes. It's not a problem for me. Get me up on the debate stage with fucking Hillary Clinton, see what happens. We'll see who's mentally still all there. But, yeah, Chelsea Clinton, I don't think... Now, the big problem for Clinton is that Chelsea's sort of the one that gets trotted out for the youth appeal, either her or Michelle Obama. But neither of these people have been on the forefront of actual reform in the drug war or anything like that. Neither of them have shown any inclination at all towards caring about the issue. They don't care how many addicts get put in prison. They don't care how many potheads get fined for having a doobie. They really don't care. It just makes them money. Chelsea Clinton has, unknowingly, I think, perhaps, exposed the fact that her mother has no plans whatsoever to reform the drug war in any meaningful way, shape, or form. If she did, it'd all be pandering, it'd be watered down, and it'd be useless. It'd be like Ohio when it tried to legalize. It was very funny because they set that up so that the press could have a field day talking about the defeat of marijuana, the evil devil's plan. In reality, what people defeated was a bill that would have given the state control over marijuana itself and allowed the state to grow it and then sell it to people for twice the price. That's why it failed. It wasn't legalization. It's just corporatation. There's a totally big difference between these two things. Having corporate government weed at government-sponsored farms with government workers who make six-figure salaries to grow it and then get a pension that you have to constantly pay for while increasing the price of the product, as opposed to simply letting mom and pop have a couple pot plants in their backyard. Two totally different things. That's about all. Peace out.